Alright, so I'm not much of a note taker or a diary writer, so I wanted to have some way to document my Birthright trip to Israel. So I thought I would make a video journal. I just finished my trip a couple days ago, and while everything is still fresh, I'm going to go through with my itinerary and just talk about everything so that I have some record of it, and so that if you are watching this and you're interested in my trip, you can find out a little bit more. I left on August 11th, and I had to fly into Philadelphia. I happened to be in San Francisco for the weekend, so it was nice that I could just leave from San Francisco and fly straight to Philly. So I arrived at Philly really early in the morning, like 6 o'clock in the morning, and someone from my trip, Madeline, she met up with me and showed me a bit around Philly, and I got to see the Liberty Bell, and I got to go and see Independence Hall, and a bunch of cool stuff, and we got to go see the American Jewish History Museum, something like that. And I got a Philly cheesesteak. I had to. So after that, we had to leave the airport. So I finished walking around by myself after Madeline left and get to the airport. And then we meet up in the lobby, and we're sitting in a corner in the airport making our first circle. And that's kind of significant since the whole trip we make circles and we talk about our feelings and everything. But we got there and we go through security and everything, and then our flight gets delayed. And then it gets delayed again. And then it gets delayed again. And then it gets delayed again. So I think we ended up being like 2.5 or 3 hours delayed leaving, which was not ideal. But eventually, I don't remember how long the flight was. I think it was like 10 something hours to Israel. And we arrive in Tel Aviv, and then we go basically straight to the hotel. Oh, while we're at the airport, we do our first getting to know you activity, and we write our what our expectations are of the trip. And we get our red bracelets, and the red bracelets are supposed to protect us from anything bad when we're on our trip. So we arrive at the hotel, and then we meet our guide, Yariv, and that was pretty cool. That was our first little taste. And we were supposed to do icebreakers and stuff, but since we had already done some in the airport, we kind of just went to bed. And that was in Tel Aviv. The next morning, we wake up and we go on a hike through Ben Gurion National Park, which was pretty cool. And we got to see that, and we got to see his gravesite and everything. And then we went to Sderot, which is right near the Gaza Strip, and that was a little scary. This town has rockets fired at it pretty much constantly, and people still live there. There are bomb shelters everywhere, and there was this playground with a snake big thing in it, and it was a bomb shelter for kids, so that if the sirens went off, they had somewhere safe to go. And that really kind of hit home, just seeing the place that they made it for the kids, and that people were living there, and it was so dangerous. We found out the night after we left there were actually rockets fired at the town that we were in, so it made it hit a little close to home, literally. And then we went to the Bedouin tent, and once we got to the Bedouin tent, that was interesting. It was kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and it was this little community, and there were a bunch of these huge tents set up. There was one tent for each of the Birthright groups that were there, and so we get there, and they have this little hospitality thing for us, and they have a Bedouin man, and he was playing an instrument, and he was sitting and talking to us, and they gave us a little drink of coffee thing. It wasn't very good, but it was just part of the experience, I guess. And then they had different activities that we could do, and so we ranked our top 3, and the one I ended up going to was an herb tasting one, which is actually really cool. Got to try a few different things. Some of them were pretty good, and some of them were nasty. I think the lemongrass was my favorite. And after that, they had a concert thing for us, and it was pretty cool actually, but the singer wasn't very good. And so we were all dancing and having a good time, but it was a little bit hard since we didn't all know each other yet, and we were still kind of getting comfortable with each other. There were some of the other groups there that had been together for a long time, and so I think that made it a little bit easier for them. But we ended up having a campfire after, which was pretty fun, and we made s'mores, and we tried the yummy Elite chocolate bars. They're so good. And then after that, we went stargazing out into the middle of nowhere, but it was kind of cloudy and we couldn't really see too much, but we tried. The next morning, we woke up and we got to ride camels. It was so cool. So I rode a camel with Matthew, and our camel's name was Dolores. and we were all like lined up in a line, like one camel after another. And the camel behind me, I just remember that its face was right next to my leg, and I kept worrying that it was gonna like take a chomp out of my leg, seriously. But it was scary, but it was fun. And then after the camel riding, we left. Sorry, I'm losing my mind. Yeah, we left, and that was on Wednesday, so it was on hump day. We left there and we went to the canyon, and we did a canyon hike, which was pretty cool. It was like in this huge area, and it was like hot, and it was like the stereotypical like Israeli desert that you think of, and it was a pretty long hike, but it was a one way in, one way out, and it was really beautiful. Oh, and the day before, it wasn't the gravesite we went to, it was the caves. Okay, so sorry, I'm losing my mind already. But yeah, the first day when we went on the hike, it was like into a cave. It was huge, and it went through a whole bunch of like tunnels and mazes, and it was very cool. And we got to try carob, which is like a plant there, and you can eat it. It's sweet. So back to my thing. After we left after we did the canyon hike and the camels, we went to a farm and we made mud bricks, which was interesting. And this farm had like goats and sheep, and we got to try like fresh goat's milk yogurt and cheeses. So that was pretty cool. And then we went to the Inbar Hotel in Arad, which was interesting. The next morning, we had to wake up super early because we were hiking Masada, and Masada was really cool. The way up was pretty quick. It was like 20 minutes, 30 minutes up, which it was okay. And then we get to the top, and we sat there and we watched the sunset, or the sunrise, which was pretty amazing. And we got to walk around up there, and it was like an old fortress, and we got to see that. And then the climb down was pretty insane. It took probably like 45 minutes to an hour, but it was intense, and it was just like a winding snake path. And I guess it just kind of showed how people would have really had to use to get up there to make that huge fortress, because they didn't have the technology we have now when it was built. Then after we did that, we went to the Engedi Reserve, and we did like a waterfall hike. So we were pretty exhausted, but we got to see like these waterfalls, and we got to play in them, which was fun. And after we did that, we went to the Dead Sea. This was like our most packed day. We went to the Dead Sea, and we covered ourselves in the Dead Sea mud. And after that, we went in the water, and the water was pretty awesome. Like, it was so easy to float, but it was a little bit painful because it was pretty salty. And then we went to Jerusalem, which was neat. That was our first, like, sightseeing, I guess, in Jerusalem. And we went out for the night. We went out to an area where there was, like, a Ben Yehuda Street, I believe. And we went to like this bar, and outside they had like a big area with like hookahs and stuff, so we ended up just hanging out there. The next morning we went to the Haas Promenade, which had a really cool view of Jerusalem, and we were talking in there, and we met our Israeli friends, which was super cool. That was definitely one of my favorite parts of the trip, was just having the Israelis there and getting to realize that there are people that live in this country, and it kind of puts a name to a face. Or face to a name, I guess. We got to go to the city of David, and the Jerusalem, like the biblical part of it. And we got to go see the Western Wall, which was actually really neat. Like, it was a very interesting experience. They had separate parts for the men and women, and the women had to cover their shoulders and their knees. And we go up to the wall, and the wall is just huge. Like, you can't even imagine how small you feel next to it. And you write a little note and you put it in the wall, and you never turn your back to the wall. So as you're walking away from it, you walk backwards, which I thought was really interesting. It's just a sign of respect. And then as we were leaving the Western Wall, we walked through the Jewish quarter, and there are 4 quarters. There's the Jewish quarter, the Arabic quarter, the Armenian corner, and I can't remember the 4th one, but it was really neat to walk through. I wish we would have had some more time to explore, but we really didn't. And then we went through the marketplace. That was pretty crazy because it was Friday, so it was right before Shabbat. Everyone was getting ready for everything, and it was so packed, but it was so amazing. Like, just seeing all the fresh produce and the breads and smelling everything, but it was very loud and very stressful, and I got a little bit anxious, but I still really enjoyed seeing the market. Like, that was really a part of their culture that I thought was neat. because that's, I mean, we have farmers markets, but it's not the same thing at all. So we did a nice Shabbat dinner at the hotel. Everyone kind of got dressed up, and we did like the ceremony and everything, which was nice because I haven't done a Shabbat dinner in a really long time. And then we had a group activity. For the group activity, we played games from Whose Line Is It Anyways in one of the rooms, and we were very hydrated for our activities, which was fun. The next day was our relaxing day because it was Shabbat, so we got to sleep in, which was really nice. And then when we woke up, we had like a little, we walked around a bit, didn't do too much, and then we went to this park near the Parliament building, and the Israelis had a couple games for us, and the first game was dealing with like just groups and getting into groups, and we talked about the military and their uniform and everything like that, and then we played another game that helped us get to know each other a little bit better, and then we had the Havdalah ceremony, which is like to signal the end of Shabbat, and that was pretty cool because I kind of forgot that that existed. And we talked about Yad Vashem, and we talked about our Jewish identities and also how like stereotyping still exists in the States and how it exists in Israel and how the differences are. And so that was kind of interesting to hear people's stories about how they have felt, you know, like profiled based on their religion through schools or through wherever. And then what else? So the next morning we got up and we went to Yad Vashem, which is the Holocaust Museum and Memorial, and that was really sad. But I didn't like that we had a tour guide through it. I didn't feel like I really got to enjoy it as much as I would have liked to, but it did really like make things hit closer to home. Sorry, I'm gonna make some. But so yeah, it just kind of showed everything, and then we went in this one room, and it was the Children's Memorial, and they had a couple candles lit, and it was a room just filled with mirrors, and it was dark, and you walk through, and you see the reflections of, I think there were 5 candles, and it looked like the whole room was filled with candles, and there was a recording playing, and it had children's names and where they were from and their ages when they were killed in the Holocaust, and that was really sad. And after we did that, we went up to Mount Herzl, which is like a military cemetery, and that's also where they have all of the like the prominent leaders and stuff buried there. So that was really sad to see. So, and then we drove to the north. The next day we went to Mount Bental, and we did a canyon hike in the Golan Heights, and we went rafting on the Jordan River, which was pretty neat. It was kind of hard because we were in like a 2-person next to each other raft, so it was pretty hard to paddle, and we were getting competitive with the throwing in the water and stuff, and I really don't remember what we did that day. That was kind of my, I don't know. The next day we went to Tzvat, which was really interesting. That's like the birthplace of Jewish mysticism, apparently. And so we got to speak to some ultra-Orthodox people. For the girls, we went into this area where they have the mikveh, and we learned all about that ceremony and how that works, and that was pretty interesting. Like, I don't know, it's just a very different way of looking at things than I guess we're all used to. So we went, and that was when we left the Israelis, which was really sad. Like, we weren't ready for them to leave, although most of them ended up joining us a couple hours later when we went out to hang out in Jerusalem, or I'm sorry, in Tel Aviv. But I'm forgetting a night. The night before, on Monday, after we did the rafting, we went to a like a beach bar, which was really fun, and everyone got hydrated, and we were dancing, and it was a good time. But yeah, when we were at Tel Aviv, we went out and we went to this club called Volume, but it looks like Valium, which is pretty funny. So we went out there, and it was really nice, and it was like our last big hurrah. So that was it was fun. Like, we just wish we would have had more time because we kind of got ushered out at midnight because Birthright has rules and stuff, so that's okay. But I think it was great. The next day we went to Rabin Square, and we heard the story about Rabin and everything that happened there, we went to see the Independence Hall, which is in Tel Aviv, and it's where they declared Israel as a state. And we got to hear part of Ben Gurion's speech, and we got to hear the Israeli anthem. And then after that, we went to the beaches, which were pretty cool. We went to the Mediterranean this time, and we were hanging out on the beach all day, and then we had to go to the airport. So that kind of sucked because we didn't get to shower. So we were all stinky and yucky on the airplane. So we got back to the airport in Tel Aviv and go through security, and a lot more people had left because a lot of people were extending their trip, and that was kind of like our second big goodbye after the Israelis, I guess. And then, so after we get there and we start flying back, we arrived back in Philly, and we are going through security again, and we were talking on the plane. We're like, hey, let's all meet by the baggage area so we can say goodbye. And so we all meet by the baggage area and we say goodbye, and it's pretty sad because most of them live on the East Coast and I'm from California, so I don't exactly get to see them all the time, but I guess now I have a really good reason to travel to the East Coast, and if they ever come to California, they have a place to stay with me. But it really was a wonderful experience. I learned so much about Jewish history and culture, and I really do feel more connected to it, and I'm definitely more of a supporter of the country now, and I want to pay more attention and keep an open mind because now I have friends that live there, I know people there, and I want them to be safe, and I want them to be happy and healthy and live good lives, and so I'm rooting for them. I'm in their corner. But if anyone from Birthright gets to watch this, thank you so much for letting me go on this trip. It was a wonderful experience, and if you haven't gone on it yet and you're thinking about going, you should definitely go because it's basically free and it's wonderful, and you'll learn so much about yourself and about other people, and you'll get to hang out around other Jewish kids, which I don't really have many of at home. So, yeah, well, thanks for watching, and I am so glad that I got to go on this trip. Like, it really was awesome. I can't have imagined anything better, and I don't know if I would have made it to Israel without Birthright. So, thank you.